things are going to get significantly worse, I'm afraid to say. So, we're talking there about the cost of net zero, and whatever your position is on net zero, we can't escape the fact that it's a costly exercise. We're in the UK, we've got an aging infrastructure. There's plenty of news about, we've got renewable generation, but how do we get that around the UK, and that costs. And the figure is something like we need £80 billion worth of investment to fix that problem. In terms of costs of that, on the 1st of September, so only last week, there were some revised figures around transmission costs. Now, transmission costs are typically within standing charges or electricity, and we won't know the final figures until the end of this year, maybe to January next. But they are forecast to go up by over 100%. So, to put that into some perspective, again, at the start when I introduced myself, I said most of our clients typically spend £100,000 to £5 million a year. So that's broadly probably a 5 million to 100 million turnover type business. And I was on a call with someone this morning, and on standing charges alone, they're going from paying £800,000 a year to having another £250,000 a year added onto their energy invoices, solely based on the changes that are coming in from April next year to standing charges. And I think I was lucky enough to see some of the responses from the survey, and I think there's a lot of frustration, people not understanding that the journey to net zero in terms of energy is supposed to drive down cost, but how much pain our business is going to have to go through to get to that position. And I see the next 6 months being very, very challenging, particularly for electricity costs. Suppliers are going to be opening up fixed contracts as well. I think you're going to see a lot of this in the news. So you might think you're protected from a fully fixed in terms of having a fully fixed contract. The size of the increases are so unprecedented that suppliers have already communicated they'll be opening up fixed contracts. I suspect we're going to see a lot more about that in the news over the next weeks and months ahead. I think the only thing that UK Metals and all of the associated members can really do is engage with your members to get as much practical live feedback as possible. And probably to as severe as, if our costs are going up by X, we're not going to be here. And I think that message probably needs pushing up the chain. And there's probably a dilution in terms of, here's some costs. Someone set some costs somewhere in some office somewhere. What does that actually mean for businesses? And then feeding that back up the chain. Where we did 2 webinars with the CBM and the SA on Monday, and people were pretty vocal on that about getting a common letter out to employees to send to MPs to really start pushing the message. I think that's the only thing you can do. I think you can only shout about how it impacts you, at ground level, and try and feed that fact. But at the minute, on the basis that all this is designed to reduce costs are going up. So there's a big mismatch between what they think is going on and what's actually going on.
So can I just clarify? You said a thought for every company to provide their employees with a template letter about the threshold of energy costs in their livelihoods to go to their local MP. That would be a swell in.
Yeah, and I think you just taken a webinar we did on Monday on the basis that the owners of the business were basically asking me, we're having to have difficult conversations with our employees. That's really what it's down to. Stuff like this in terms of the increased energy costs. If they were able to evidence that to their employees, and if their employees takes their MPs, you might get some traction in this. And I think, and
It's a really interesting.
yes, something to long.